Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Akmal Fahmi bin Muhammad Ghazali. Today I will presenting my research title is the influence of staff demographic on perception of leadership style at advanced sport organization. The purpose of this study is to examine whether employees' demographic characteristics influence how they perceive leadership style with advanced sports. Throughout this presentation, I will explain the background of the study, the research problem, objective, literature review, conceptual framework, and research methodology, and last but not least is the conclusion. Let's begin with the background of the study. Leadership is one of the most important factors every organization because it influences employees' motivation, communication, teamwork, and overall organization performance. This is especially important in sport organization where leaders are responsible coordinating staff, making strategic decisions, and ensuring organizational goals are successfully achieved. However, not all employees view leadership in the same way. Employees come from different backgrounds such as different ages, genders, education level, and working experience. This demographic difference may influence how they interpret and respond to their leader behaviors. Although many students have discussed leadership style on a limited number, have focused on how demographic characteristic influence employee perception with Malaysian sport organisation. Therefore, this study focused on advanced sport to address this research gap. Moving on the problem statement. Many organizations apply the same leadership approach to all employees without considering their demographic differences. Previous research has also reported inconsistent findings regarding whether demographic characteristics significantly influence leadership perception. As a result, organization may experience communication problems, lower employee satisfaction, and reduce organization effectiveness. Therefore, this research aims to determine whether demographic characteristics significantly influence employee perception of leadership style at advanced sport. The main objective of this study is to examine the influence of demographic characteristics on employees' perception of leadership style. This research, the research question focused on identifying whether demographic factors significantly affect leadership perception among employees. Correspondingly, the null hypothesis state that demographic characteristics do not significantly influence employees' perception of leadership style, while alternative hypothesis state that demographic characteristics do significantly influence employee perception of leadership style. Now, I will explain the significance of this study. This research is expected to benefit several parties. Firstly, it will provide useful information for advanced sport in developing more effective leadership practice that consider employee diversity. Secondly, the finding will contribute to academic literature by expanding leadership research within Malaysian sport organization. Lastly, future research may use this study as a reference for conducting similar research in leadership and organizational behavior. Like any research, this study has several limitations and assumptions. Firstly, the study only focused on employee working in advanced sport. Therefore, the findings cannot be generalized to all sport organizations in Malaysia. Secondly, the study used self-administrated questionnaire, meaning the accuracy of the result depends on the honesty and understanding of the respondent. In addition, this research only examines selected demographic variables and employees' perception of leadership style. The study also assumed that all respondents answer the questionnaire honestly and understand every question correctly. Next, for the operational terms, as you can see, there are three type of variable. First is leader, second one is leadership style, and the third one is demographic factors. The leadership style is based on measure by Blake and Morton, which is a concern for people or concern for production, and demographic factors as a variable is age, gender, education, employment status, and length of services. Moving on to the literature review. Previous study has shown that effective leadership style positively influence employee motivation, communication, job satisfaction, and organizational performance. Leadership theories developed by scholars such as Black and Morton, Nothouse, Lawson, and Much provide a strong theoretical foundation for understanding leadership behavior. However, despite this contribution, there is still a limited research examining how demographic difference influence employees' perception of leadership style within Malaysia's sport organisation. Therefore, this study attempts to fill the gap by focusing specifically on advice sport. Moving on to research gap, as you can see, there are two previous study. First is Marsh et al. 2002, 2022, and Tamova and Shakur 2024. For Marsh et al., applies research gap for this study is apply the shape perception of analysis, and for Tamova and Shakur, test demographic leadership links significantly within sport Malaysian sport organisation. Next, moving on to conceptual framework. Firstly is independent variable, which is staff demographic factors, include have five main variable. Firstly is the gender, age, education level, employee status, and length of services. Next one is dependent variable, perception of leadership style at an advanced sport organization, measured via Blake and Morton measure grid, which is have concern for people and concern for production. Next one is a research design. It testing established theories by measure grid and against new empirical data. Next one is numerical data collection and statistical analysis. Third one is structure and self-administration questionnaire. And last but not least is data collected at a single point in time to capture current perception. On this research design, we use a quantitative for research method or strategy by survey, and time horizon is cross-sectional. For population and sample technique, target population is around 50 people, total recorded administrative and operational staff at an advanced sport organization, which sample technique is ensure probability of selection using selecting bias. Sample size is around 44 based on Krejcik and Morgan 1970. Instrument and structure by Blake and Morton. We have two, section A, section B. For section A, have five items, which is age, gender, education status, by using a scale and nominal and ordinal. Next one is section B. We have 40 items. B1 for concern for people, which is 20 items, and B2 for concern for production is 20 items. By using scale 5-point Likert. This adaptation is adapted from validated Blake and Moulton frameworks. Next one, you can see this is my Gantt chart. For the data analysis and procedure, for RQ and RQ1 and RQ2, we use a descriptive statistic by frequency, percentage, means, and standard deviation. For RQ3 and RQ4, we use inferential statistic by using output, independent sample. Output 2 can use by one-way ANOVA, which has three groups, age brackets. These are my some reference for my research study, and this is my questionnaire. These are some my questionnaire also, and that's all for me. Thank you for having your time.